And we are live with the Football Fanatics podcast for the second week in a row. We are here to break down all the happenings of the semifinals of the last two games that were fantastic this past Monday. I am joined by Derik, Vance, and we are also joined by a special guest, Derik's brother, Corbin Vance. How you guys doing?
Good, thanks for having me. So I'm watching some high school basketball. I'm also watching a little Ohio State, Missouri, all 22 film, and I'm texting. So I didn't want my camera popping up and making it look like I'm not paying attention to what you guys are saying.
Oh, it's okay, Corbin. I look away all the time. I'm watching the Pacers and the Hawks play right now. Oh, there we go. We're back on the screen now.
Everything's good here on this end. Not watching the Pacers. I did see they were up double digits, and then curious. I know Corbin, and we'll talk to him here shortly about his background and everything. But I'm curious to get his intake from watching the all 22 film there on Ohio State, Missouri in the Cotton Bowl. But before we get into that, Josh, I know there were two semifinal games that were played this past week, and I know one that you were paying extra special close attention to, and I'll let you talk about that one here first.
Wow, is all I can say. From the beginning of the game when it looked like McCarthy came out and threw a first play interception, only for the heels of the defender to be on the outside of the outside the playing field, so that the Michigan was not assessed a turnover at that particular point, all the way up to the final play when we all knew who was getting the ball. There was no ifs, ands, or buts about it. It was play with the person that brought you, and the person that brought them was Jalen Milroe. Unfortunately for Alabama, fortunately for Michigan, Michigan's defensive line all day long, all night long, was just pushing that offensive line of Alabama around. And you don't hear that often because Alabama usually has some of the biggest, baddest linemen that have ever played or will be in college. They get the top recruits, the 5 stars. Those are, I would say, the average star rating of that entire front line was probably a 4.5. This was by far one of the best games. It's the best game I've ever seen Michigan play, and the only reason I say that is because it's the Rose Bowl and we won. We were 1-6 under Harbaugh in bowl games, and we had gotten drubbed so many times, and I know the entire media and the world thought that Alabama was going to come in there and push us around, and we were not going to be able to contain Jalen Milroe. Well, we ended up with 5 sacks in the first half and two in the second half for a 7-sack game, the last one being the final play of the game. It wasn't a pretty game, I will tell you that. Our special teams was dreadful. Whether it be Samaj Morgan fumbling on when Alabama kicked their very first punt and recovered it, and then subsequently went up 7-0, or Jake Thaw almost giving the entire Wolverine nation a heart attack because he decided he was going to try to field a punt with less than 2 minutes to go. And he fumbled it, and it went into the end zone, but he had the wherewithal to be able to pick that ball up and at least get to the 1-yard line. And we were able to get to overtime, and in overtime, Blake the Great Corum, he said, "This is my team. I came back for this. This was what I came back for. I could have gone to the NFL last year, but I came back and I wanted to win a national championship." And it was he that second play from scrimmage in overtime just he said, "I'm not going down. I'm going into this end zone." And once Milroe was tackled on that last play, a sigh of relief. My heart started beating. I was no longer lightheaded. So on to Houston we go. We'll talk more about the game. I'd like to get your guys' synopsis of what you guys saw.
I'll take a shot at this first. I thought there were a few takeaways from the game. First and foremost, I do have to admit that I was wrong. I thought Alabama was going to win by at least 10 points, and obviously, I got that pick wrong. But I think there was a couple other things that were glaring to me while watching this first semifinal game. I thought Alabama's front, their offense and defensive lines, definitely got pushed around. I was surprised at the pressure that Michigan front got to Jalen Milroe, got to him early, got to him often, and Alabama just seemed like to me they didn't adjust. It also seemed like Alabama's offensive line has never seen a stunt before because Michigan had them on their heels all night through that. And then on the defensive side, I thought Michigan's front, offensive front, bullied Alabama. They were able to do what Michigan does, and that was to run the ball between the tackles with Blake Corum. And it seemed like to me, and like I said, I'd love to get Corbin's take on this and yours as well, Josh, that Alabama's defense just seemed like for lapses during the game couldn't get lined up correctly, and that hurt them as well, giving up chunk plays. But overall, and I hate to say this, but Michigan dominated. Just dominated. Alabama hung around, but it was just they got to overtime, and like you said, it's that will to win, to do whatever's necessary that Michigan has. They scored first, give the ball to Alabama. Alabama got one big play. I think it was the quarterback counter to Milroe down there, got him inside the 10-yard line. And then that fourth down play, I think, is going to be talked about, and it's still being talked about right now, the fourth down call on where Alabama, again, the best play they had that they called coming out of a timeout to boot. I think that's something that's not being talked about. Coming out of a timeout is the quarterback counter that Jalen Milroe ran that obviously got stuffed. I understand what Alabama was trying to do. Obviously, like you talked about, go with the partner that got you to the dance. I get that, but my only issue with the play call, if you're going to make a play call like that, run it to the boundary or run it to the field side. They were on the right hash mark, if memory serves me correctly. Run it to the field side to where you can give Milroe that RPO, that run pass option, because running it to the boundary like they did, I thought that kind of limited what Milroe could do, and the dominance that the Michigan front had on Alabama's offensive line all night just made me kind of give me a little bit of a head scratch as to why that was the best play call that offensive coordinator Tommy Rees and Nick Saban could come up with. But in the end, it just wasn't enough. As you said, Michigan wins a thriller in the Rose Bowl in overtime to move it on to the Natty on Monday night in Houston. And we'll talk about who their opponent's going to be first. But Corbin, I know you watched that game. I don't know if you've been able to get the all 22 film, but what were some of the things that you've seen? I know you being a defensive minded coach on the defensive side of the ball. What were some of your takeaways from that first semifinal game?
Well, not only do I enjoy defense, outstanding defense at that, but I'm a big special teams guy. So as good as Michigan's defense was, I was just absolutely disgusted by the special teams play. But that's neither here nor there. The phrase you guys are trying to say, though, dance with who brung you, and I'll get to that in a second in regards to Milroe and the play at the end of the game. But, going back to Michigan's performance, I thought that might have been, and I say this because I watch a lot of college football. I'm not much of an NFL guy anymore. That might have been the best defensive performance that I see all year. And that's saying coming from an Ohio State guy, a guy that's a big fan of Jim Knowles. I thought Minter had an outstanding game plan. I didn't think that anybody's offensive line in the Power 5, top 5, could be as bad as Ohio State. Yet somehow Alabama made Ohio State look content. And maybe that's again because Jesse Minter had how much time to prepare and put together a game plan. I can't say enough good things about the game plan that he put together and what they did. You know, I was on another podcast earlier this week, and Josh, you might not appreciate this being a Michigan guy. I have since called Michigan a team of destiny. And what I mean by that is think about all the things, you know, leading up to, I'll just say the Ohio State, you know, all the adversity that they had to go through, you know, the suspension at the beginning of the year, the suspension at the end of the year with Harbaugh, and you know, they continue to get things done. And then, you know, you start catching breaks, like you start winning games, big games with, you know, assistant coach or an offensive coordinator or head coach. You know, you don't miss a beat. And I think this is the big thing when somebody looks back on this season, because, again, I think Michigan's national championship. I don't think it matters who they play. And, again, might not like that. Might think I'm jinxing it. I don't mean it. I sincerely mean that as an Ohio State guy, that I think Michigan wins the national championship. But I also think that Georgia is the best team in college football, and the fact that they're not the best team on a single given night and it knocked them out of the playoff was another reason why I put, you know, that destiny chant on Michigan. And then we get into the game, and you talked about it, Josh. You mentioned the fact that, you know, the first pass play of the game, an ill-advised play, a ball that should have been, well, I should say the first pass play. I take that back. I think it was the second or third play. A ball that should have ended up 10 rows into the stands, for some reason gets thrown by a quarterback that's been extremely smart, has done very little to hurt his team, is intercepted, but yet there's a cleat. I mean, we're talking stud of a cleat that's out of bounds. You know, and I thought Michigan got, and again, I say this, you know, with all due respect to Michigan, I thought they got every break. And, you know, when you're going to win a national championship, I'd rather be lucky than good sometimes. You know, look at the interception there. And then if you go a little bit later in the game, I look at that possession where Alabama was up, had the football. Milroe fumbles the football at midfield. Again, a guy that's, you know, done nothing but carried his team since we're talking first or second week of October, because we know the first couple of weeks of September and October, Alabama was not very good. So, but Milroe figured it out. Fumbles the ball right there at midfield. Boom, another break when Alabama could have made it a two-score game. And then, and again, I go back to special teams here. Think about that punt at the end of the game, inside the 2-yard line. I mean, how many times, and I'm not talking about the fact that he was able to pick it up, but those fumbles usually occur then when he possesses it and that first contact gets there is when the ball gets knocked out. Well, he gets tackled at the 2-yard. I mean, it's just about getting the breaks at the right time. And not only do I think Michigan had an outstanding game plan, I thought that, you know, they got every break along with it. I just that well, Michigan, it's going to be partying like 1997 here in a couple of days.
Yeah, Corbin, I appreciate all the praise you've given towards Michigan. I know you can if you're after this podcast, you're going to have to go wash your mouth out with some mouthwash, because you're going to have a bad taste in your mouth. Because I know Ohio State fans hate to talk as good about Michigan's team, and vice versa. I can't stand saying anything good about Ohio State, although I do think that Ohio State is one of, if not the best, historically the best program in the Big Ten. I'll give them that credit. I mean, they haven't had the best of luck over the last couple of years. I mean, realistically, you know, the Missouri loss was a fluke. You know, that was just that's a product of what's going on in college football. And me and Derik talked about that, but yeah. You don't get those breaks. You don't get those as many breaks as Michigan got in that game, especially in that high profile of a game that and you come back and win. I mean, that's the luck of the draw, luck of the Irish. You know, Notre Dame fans will be pissed off at me for saying that, but I don't care. But we made lots of mistakes, but we were able to overcome it, and I attribute that to the maturity and the leadership of this team. You know, there's so many so many great players on this team that have come back. Sam Still, he's been there since I think he's been there since I was in high school. He's got so many years. This is the last year. Also, some of the transfers. One of the unsung heroes from this game was Rod Moore. He was able to have He was able to have a play there in OT where it looked like Milroe was going to get around to the outside on the right hand side and get to the end zone to tie it up, but he was right there, Johnny, on the spot to be able to take Milroe down. Yeah, like you said, that ball should have been thrown 19 rows into the stands. I don't know what it is about JJ and throwing interceptions in playoff games, but he's not going to be able to do that this coming Monday. Washington will get back at us. Go ahead,
I don't mean to interrupt, but one more break is on that scoring drive where they go down, by the game. Well, the pass to Roman Wilson gets tipped, and it gets deflected, and it is a clear deflection, but the ball doesn't change trajectory. The rotation of the football almost stays the same. And if you look, Alabama's got a guy literally waiting to win the ball game, and yet again, Wilson's right there, and it's things like that. When you take that back, usually these are things that are talked about, years down the line, after, when people start looking back, look at this. These are the types of things that I'm talking about.
Oh yeah, totally. The flying Hawaiian, Roman Wilson from the island of Hawaii, jumping up and catching that ball. I've seen online. There's been a petition where instead of the jump man this year on the national championship jerseys, they want Roman Wilson's silhouette, because that's our version of the jump man. And you're right. That ball was deflected and it didn't go anywhere. It just kept going straight, and it went up, and somehow, Roman's not the tallest player in the world. He's probably 6'1", and he just was able to go up and get that ball, and that's what saved our season right there. That and the gutsy call by Harbaugh and Sharon Moore to go for it on fourth down with it back up in their end zone, even when they had 3 timeouts left. That last drive in regulation, scoring drive was a thing of beauty. And as Derik said earlier, the offense of Michigan just had the defense of Alabama confused all around, whether it be on the Blake Corum first touchdown he had pass. Corum was wide open. Nobody was near him. The linebackers got caught so many times with their eyes in the backfield, and that hurt them. That hurt them so bad. And I've never seen an Alabama defense be that discombobulated in my life. And Nick Saban's got to be going back and kicking himself, thinking, we were right here. We had this game, and had it not been for two bad snaps, one on the center and one on Milroe, who just took his eyes off the ball. They were driving, and then it just got them out of field goal range, and they just never really recovered from there.
I'll tell you what, in reality, if I'm Alabama and I'm up, 20-13, was it 2 or 3 minutes to go when they start the drive, or maybe it's a little bit more than that, I've got Michigan right where I want them, because I don't trust, I guess, and maybe this is a little bit of the Ohio State in me, but, just from what I've watched all year, I don't trust McCarthy to drive down the field. I know that Michigan's not going to be able to run the football, at least not how they want to, where it's 3 yards, 4 yards, 3 yards, But if you're telling me I'm up 7 with less than 5 minutes to go and McCarthy's going to drive the field, was it 75 yards or whatever it was? Fine. I'll take my chances. And again, he proved me wrong, but like I said, if I'm Alabama's defensive staff, I'm happy with the spot we're in. I'm disappointed we didn't get a stop.
Most definitely. Vance, you have anything else you wanted to add?
Speaking of sequences, I'm kind of, Josh. I know we talked about this at work, and we were both kind of scratching our head about it. Corbin, I want to hear what you have to say as well. The sequence right there towards halftime, where Michigan was backed up almost in their own end zone. Alabama has no time. No, excuse me. It wasn't. It was at the end of the game. Michigan backed up in their own end zone. Alabama doesn't have any timeouts. Michigan takes a kneel and then calls timeout instead of just letting the clock run out. Is there anything that you've seen that is to reason why Michigan did that, or was that just something fluky that happened towards the end of the game?
Yeah, I don't know if there was fluky that happened. The TV guys didn't explain it to us well. Like, yeah, because I there's no reason explanation on why Michigan would want to cut out in that situation. So I don't know if there's something that just wasn't explained. Or what. Yeah, that's kind of where I've left it.
Yeah, I was very puzzled by that too. I mean, you're on your 2 yard line, basically. Corum's standing behind McCarthy, making sure he doesn't go into the end zone, and you take a timeout and Alabama has no timeouts. That's a very weird thing for me. Miscommunication. Maybe Michigan saw something that they didn't like. I have no idea. Couldn't tell you.
Maybe they didn't have enough guys on the field or something. That's not the only way to do it. Then you're talking about sacrifice. Have to snap ball in and crazy things and shit. I'd have just rather snapped it with 9 or 10 guys if that was the case.
Notre Dame would. They would have snapped it with 10 guys.
I'd just like to know where Lou Holtz is.
You want to know where what?
I said I'd just like to know where Lou Holtz is.
So does Ryan Day.
The last thing that I have about this game before we move on to Texas and Washington, I was also kind of puzzled as to why Alabama went away from their running game. That's how they scored their first touchdown. McClendon running in from 20 yards out or whatever it was. But I just thought over the length of the game, Alabama went away from their running game, and that was something else. Maybe it was because Michigan was so dominant up front. But I just was just thinking about that as the game progressed. I said Alabama's going away from their running game and basically putting Milroe on an island per se.
Definitely. I mean, they were running all over us. They were getting 8 to 9 yards a run. And it was almost like almost like Tommy Rees was like, hold on, no, we can't, we can't, we got to throw the ball. This is a throwing league. We're supposed to throw, but why on earth would you go away from something that was working for you? That puzzled me too, Derik. I mean, we talked about that on Tuesday. Why go away from it? I mean, you're basically putting your quarterback back there with against a defensive line that is just shredding your offensive line. Stunts, and I don't think they did too many blitzes, but it baffled me too on why Tommy Rees and Nick Saban would decide to go away from the run when it was being so effective.
Yeah, I think there's really any viable explanation unless there was an injury or something that is, not disclosed on Milroe's part or McClennan's part. Between the two of them, I think they rushed 35 times or something like that between the two of them. So maybe one of them will bump or something like that. And otherwise, again, no explanation.
Yeah, definitely a head scratcher for sure. Now, moving on to the nightcap. Josh, I don't know how much you were able, or I were. Well, I know how much I was. I ended up watching the game up until halftime, but I didn't know how much you were able to catch Washington and Texas. What a show Michael Penix put on. I firmly believe after that game that he should have won. He should be the Heisman Trophy winner, and we can talk about postseason awards after we break down these games. But the show that Michael Penix and the Washington offense put on, I know we talk about how much nobody in the Big 12 plays defense. My main key in that game was I was curious to see how Washington would handle Texas up front. I thought Texas's defensive line would be the best defensive line Washington has seen all year. But again, Washington proves me wrong. I thought Texas was going to win this game. Obviously, they didn't. But Penix, though, what a show he put on. I seen a stat where 20 yards or more attempts for him. He was 6 of 8 for over 200 yards and 2 touchdowns. But Michael Penix, what a performance he put on. And I know, Josh, you haven't forgot this, but if memory serves me correctly, the last time Michigan faced Michael Penix was in a Indiana Hoosiers jersey, and I don't think that turned out too well for Michigan, but we'll get into that here shortly. But thoughts on the other semifinal game between Washington and Texas?
I was not able to stay up and watch this game. I was drained. I had to go to work the next day. I was very fortunate that the Michigan's game started at 5, or I would have been dragging the old proverbial ass as I went into work the next day. But Penix, what an impressive game for him. He was 29 of 38 for 430 yards with an average of 11.3 yards a game and 2 touchdowns throwing. Those are video game numbers. You had a couple more touchdowns, but those are video game numbers. 430 yards against the defense as vaunted as Texas. You're an elite quarterback, and I do agree. Penix should have won the Heisman. I think that has mainly due to the fact of there's two factors. One, everyone loves the SEC, and for some reason, everyone is stuck on that the SEC has to win everything. And two, Washington being on the Pacific Ocean and over there on the West Coast, I don't think a lot of voters actually stay up and watch how good he actually has been throughout this year. East Coast bias brings into it. They may watch highlights, but they're not watching the overall games. The plays that Penix makes that are not highlights. Where he is elusive enough to be able to get out of a rush and make it a couple yards with his legs. I know. He is not as prolific of a runner as he was when he was back in IU with good old Tom Crean and that offensive juggernaut. But he did. He had 3 rushes for 31 yards at 10.3 yards a carry. So he's able to get when the pocket collapses. He's able to get out of the pocket and be able to either throw the ball away to where no one can get it, or he's able to get a couple yards so that he doesn't get his team behind the sticks. On the other side, with good old Quinn Ewers, he was not too shabby himself. He was 24 of 43 for 318 with an average of 7.4 yards a pass and only 1 touchdown, but he did not throw any interceptions. I just think that Washington, and this is why I picked them, I think they were too talented. I think they were so talented that they were going to be able to overwhelm Texas's vaunted defense. And Texas's offense has been good at times, but it's also not been it's not been the Vince Young Texas offense that we saw back in I think that was the 06 Rose Bowl against USC, or the year before that, the 05 Texas team against Michigan in that Rose Bowl where Michigan took the L on that one. I think Washington's defense, for as lowly as they're ranked, I think they were able to come up and give Ewers some looks. I mean, they didn't rush for a whole lot of yards, only 180 yards on the ground on 28 carries. which is an average of 6.4 yards. So, I mean, that's good, but it's not it's not anything special. So I think Penix and Adunze and Johnson, who I hear the Dylan Johnson, who's going to be back for the game this coming Monday, and Polk and McMillan. Those are 4 dynamic players at any moment can take the ball, throw the ball get the ball to the end zone where Adunze catches just fantastic ball that bounces off of a Texas receiver, or Johnson takes the ball, takes it in for a touchdown. Fantastic team. Washington is a much improved team. Kalen DeBoer is he rightfully should have won the coach of the year, and I was excited for him. He was from IU. He started out in lower levels also, but from everything that I heard, it was one heck of a game. Joel Klatt had one heck of it. He had a good quote, and this viewers should listen to this. 100% of the balls you throw out of the back of the end zone are not going to be caught. Ewers should at least given his wide receiver a chance there at the end. I saw the last play. Didn't give his wide receiver a chance. You got to throw the ball to where he can catch it. Giving up on it is just, I mean, to me that shows that either Ewers just wanted to get out of there. He pissed down his leg and he made a mistake, but you can't throw the ball out of the end zone. You got to throw it. I mean, heck, throw it up into double coverage. Maybe you'll get a pass interference in the end zone and get another shot at it. But Washington moves on, and I can't wait to see this game on Monday. Now that my ranting is over, Corbin, what was your thoughts?
I'll tell you what, I shut it off right there at the start of the fourth quarter. Texas had just fumbled the football down. It was 34-21. They fumbled the football. I cut it off. And I'll tell you what, I woke up in the morning, and, it was kind of all over Twitter, that last play. And I actually had to do a double take at the scoreboard to figure out why everybody was talking about it. Because it just felt like all of them was in Washington's favor. And I woke up thinking that there was no way that Washington had let the game go. And then I watched the play, and you're right. You got to give your receiver an opportunity. Tough break there for Texas. But everything, I kind of don't want to repeat everything that you said about Washington. We're in 100% agreement. The job that DeBoer's done there, and the unfortunateness, I don't know if that's a word or how that works, about them playing on the West Coast has really taken away from Penix and what he's done. And I say shame on all of those voters who, they get tasked with the best player in college football, but they don't watch everybody play. I think that's a travesty in itself. But I think that Washington, has had an outstanding year. I don't know if they play a Big Ten schedule, if they're in the situation that they're in with the defense that they do not have. But, who knows? I don't know. Good year for Texas. I'm going to comfortably say Texas is not back, only because, so what? They made the playoff. They made it because they beat Alabama. They beat Alabama in September, and that's the only reason they made the playoff. Okay? Because if they lose to Alabama, all right, and they only have the one loss, so say they turn around and they beat Oklahoma and they only have one loss and they go win the Big 12, all right, they're not getting in. Georgia's in at 4, Bama's at 3, and that's it. So, Texas is not back. Washington, a good season. But as I said in the opener, you're going to lose to Michigan. That's just the way that the football gods have it wrote.
Definitely. I agree with you, Corbin.
Yeah, I'm in agreement with Corbin there too. So flipping the page to Monday, intriguing matchup. I think Washington. I'm not sure is going to, looking at their schedule, or has rather faced a defense, especially the front that Michigan brings to the table. as what they're going to see on Monday. I think an interesting matchup, and me and Josh have already talked about this, is going to be how Will Johnson handles Roma Odunze. We talked about the job that Johnson did on Harrison, only giving up the one touchdown, and that was really a catch and run for Marv in that game. Odunze brings kind of the same skill set. We agree that Marv is a better route runner, but I think Odunze can do more over the top, and that's something that Will Johnson, not only against Alabama, not only against Marvin Harrison shut down, but he did that according to Pro Football Focus to Alabama, who he was matched up against. So that is definitely going to be an interesting matchup going to be NFL pros. I think that's safe to say. I think that's one matchup to watch. Michigan's front cannot give, has to be harassing Penix like they did Milroe, because if they let Penix sit back in the pocket, they're going to be picked apart no matter how good they are, how good the back half is with Johnson and Sanderstrong and the core back there. If they let Penix have that much time to sit and read the defense and read the field, guys, I think it's going to be safe to say that Penix could have the potential to pick that Michigan back half apart, and again add to his Heisman snub. If he can light up the scoreboard or light up the stats like he did against Texas, if he does that against a top 3 defense like Michigan, who's been a top 3 defense, if not the best defense in the country all year, if he does that against Michigan, it's really going to, in my opinion, I think make some of the Heisman voters look bad for not putting Michael Penix at the top of the list.
Definitely, this is going to be one heck of a game, and I feel like Michigan's defense was built for this. They were back in 2020, back in 2021. I've heard this story. Jim Harbaugh went to his brother John and said, "Look, I need to be able to. There's a team that's down south that I need to be able to compete with. My defense right now just can't compete with them, so I need somebody." And John came back and says, "I got 2 people. I got Mike McDonald, or I got Jesse Minter. Choose one of them." And Harbaugh wanted both of them, but John wouldn't give up both of them. So he took McDonald, and McDonald came in and was able to craft a defense that was able to keep up and play with Ohio State, because let's face it, Ohio State at that time, I would say they had CJ Stroud, they had Wilson, they had Garrett Wilson, they had Jackson Smith and Jigba, and they had Chris Olave. Three wide receivers that were first round draft picks, blowing it up in the NFL right now. And you got CJ Stroud, who's going to be the NFL AFC Rookie of the Year. And the defense, they crafted a defense they could go out and compete with Ohio State. And then when McDonald left, they brought Jesse Minter back from Vanderbilt. So this defense is built to go up against a team like Washington that has dynamic wide receivers and a dynamic quarterback that can place the ball where he wants to. If you look at Penix generally never throws the ball inside. He always throws it to the outside shoulder of his wide receiver where the defender's not. So, sorry. I feel like this team and this defense is built to go up against Washington. On the other side of the ball, what Michigan needs to do, they need to ground and pound. They need to do what they did against Ohio State in 2001 in the Big House. They need to run, and whenever they've ran, they need to run some more. If Blake Corum wants to go in there and get 6 touchdowns, that would be fantastic. What they need to do is they need to limit Washington's offensive possessions, because if you limit their offensive possessions, they are not going to be able to go up and down the field. And if you do play ball control with them, keep Penix on the sideline, have his arm be cold when he goes out each time. I just think I'm sorry. I just think that we don't need to trick plays. We saw the two flea flickers, one that was a disaster, and the second one that could have been a disaster had it not been for McCarthy getting a one-handed catch and then somehow, some way getting the ball off to Roman Wilson. So this is going to be a tough game for Michigan this coming Monday, but I feel like they're built. They've been building up to this game. The last 2 years they got dog walked by Georgia. Then they got upset by a better, and they overlooked a better TCU team. This year, I think they're focused. They're not overlooking Washington. They know this is going to be one of the toughest games, but I think in the end, I think Michigan's going to pull it out.
David, I got two numbers for you. All right, 4.4 and 3.1. 4.4 yards per rush by Washington, 3.1 yards allowed per rush by Michigan. All right, as a defensive guy and anything that's anti-offense, I believe in two things. Well, three, if you follow Durham. The small of a woman's back, the ability to stop the run, and the ability to run on offense. Okay? Washington's not 100% committed to being able to run the football. Michigan is. Michigan is able to stop the run on defense. Washington doesn't play defense. So, couple those things together, Michigan's going to be able to run football, control the clock. Michigan's going to be able to force Washington to be one-dimensional. And if you can force a team to be one-dimensional, and if you don't know what that means, go back and watch Missouri and Ohio State. But if you can force a team to be one-dimensional, and you have a guy like Zach Miller as your defensive coordinator to be able to dial up some of those blitzes, I think it's a beautiful recipe for Michigan to get out with a victory. Now, if you look at the spread of totals, Vegas thinks about 30-26, 30-27. I think Washington gets to 30, Washington wins. I think the score, Michigan 24, Washington 17.
It's interesting you say that, Corbin, because if I remember correctly, Josh, I did tell you today that I don't think Michigan can win in a shootout against Washington. I don't think Michigan offensively is built to, have 30-second, 1-minute drives and just, big chunk plays up and down the field. I don't think they're built like that. So if this comes to a shootout, as Vegas may tend to think it may be, I don't think Michigan can win in a shootout. I don't. But in the same sentence, and I said this today as well, Michigan is built to play with the lead. If they fall behind early to Washington in this game, I can see Michigan. That's the two ways I think Michigan gets beat. One is if they get into a shootout, and two, if they fall behind early and can't play Michigan football, which is control the clock, control the scoreboard, and just 3 yards in a cloud of dust, like old Woody Hayes would say. Those are the two ways I think Michigan gets beat. I would love to hear both of your guys' inputs.
I'll tell you what, text message out to a group I'm in. As soon as that game went to overtime, the Michigan-Alabama game went to overtime, I said, fellas, it's over. Michigan's going to win because they can line up and do what they do from 25 yards in. I mean, there was no doubt that Michigan was going to win that game. Now, I was, obviously rooting for Alabama, not only because of my Ohio State ties, but because I, as I like to say, was financially invested in the Crimson Tide. But it's just one of those things where if Michigan's able to do what they can do on offense, defensively, they're going to be just fine. I mean, you take a look, and I think teams like Iowa lay the blueprint where if you can play good defense, and Iowa doesn't have a competent offense, but if you have a competent offense, and I think Michigan's offense is well above being competent, that's all you need. And that's I'm as high on Michigan as I've ever been.
Yeah, I do think that I don't think Michigan can win in a shootout. Although I will say last year against TCU, the game ended up being 51-45. So, Michigan was able to put up. I mean, that was with a different squad. Ronnie Bell was there, so he was able to catch some balls. But I don't think we can win in a shootout. But I do think if we get down 7, we've proven we can come back. 10 is going to be hard. We haven't been down that much all year. So I am going to choose Michigan. I am going to say we win 27-21. I think we get to 21 and we kick a couple field goals. I think our special teams will be more shored up this week, and I don't think we're going to have a missed field goal. But I think Michigan is able to control the clock. I think that they're able to go out and with Blake the Great, I think they're able to rack up. I'm going to say they go for a combine between McCarthy, Edwards, and Corbin. They go for a combined 210 and 3 touchdowns. I don't think Michigan's going to throw a touchdown this week. They're going to throw the ball, but I don't think they're going to get any passing touchdowns. So my prediction is 27-21 Michigan.
I don't think you're too far off. I've noticed I'm 0 for 2 in this predicting game, and I've thought about taking the road. There was a show, Josh, that we were watching this morning. Josh Pate, that's it. I couldn't think of it, and I thought about taking the same road that he took, to where Michigan isn't going to lose as much as Washington's going to, because like I said, I'm 0-2 when it comes to this. And I agree with Corbin a lot here. I think when it just comes down to it, I think Michigan's more sound on the defensive side of the ball. Washington may be more sound on offensively, especially the weapons that they have around Penix. But again, it's the age-old question. Who in the Pac-12 plays defense, and unfortunately, Washington does not. I think Michigan sticks to what Michigan does. As sickening as that is for me to say, honestly, Michigan sticks to what they do, and I'm going to say Michigan wins this 27-21. And unfortunately, we have to watch Jim Harbaugh hoist the college football national championship as he rides off into the sunset and becomes an NFL head coach.
Don't be so quick to think that yet. I don't know. We'll see if the proposed contract that Harbaugh has on the table is true. It's going to be a lot. It's going to be hard to turn down. But I do appreciate you picking my team. Michigan fans, we've had to endure our fabled heart attacks and heart letdowns. I mean, we saw Trussell win how many national championships? We had to see Urban Meyer.
Just one each.
Huh?
Just one each.
I thought they
played a lot. They let us down like Michigan used to let you guys down.
I could have sworn they had more than that, but
no, they got one. Just like Ted Ginn only has one good ankle after a kickoff return for a touchdown in 2006.
Do you really think you would have won that game had Ted Ginn been able to play the rest of the game?
No, not with all the convicts on that squad.
Hey! Tim Tebow weighs them out. I mean,
it was almost like playing the 2001 Hurricanes.
Pass interference. Yeah, we'll go with that.
Yeah, I thought it was clean.
One more interesting fact about the Rose Bowl. It averaged 27.6 million viewers, and I think it peaked somewhere around 34 that is the most viewed game. Do either of you know which one that's the most viewed game since?
Oh, it's got to be the just Rose Bowls.
No, we're talking about college football playoff games.
College football playoff games. Well, I would think Ohio State, Georgia.
Nope. The answer is Ohio State, Alabama, the very first
the
college
first one.
football game. It averaged, if I have it up here right, it averaged, where did it go? The game peaked at, no, that was the Rose Bowl. 24.5 million people is what it averaged, that first college football playoff game between Alabama and Ohio State, which I do believe, didn't Ohio State come out on the better end of that too?
Yeah, Zeke Elliott's running right alongside Forrest Gump still.
Crop top Zeke. Oh, showing off those abs. Who was the quarterback that year?
What's that?
Who was the quarterback that year? Was that
Well, I thought it was Lincoln Keenholz. No, never mind. That's another third-string quarterback.
Oh, it's Cardell Williams, who doesn't go to he went to Ohio State to play football, not to play class, not to play school.
You're talking about Cadillac Williams. We're talking about Cardell Jones, one that.
Oh, Cardell Jones. Yeah, sorry, one of them.
Yeah, he ain't come here to play school.
Yeah, he didn't come to play school.
Yeah, that was
like,
old. That was old 12 gauge. Oh, 12 gauge.
Yeah, it's like the old Friday Night Lights movie. I think them boys is doing too much learning in them schools. That's Ohio State's problem.
Speaking of Rose Bowls, I thought Kirk Herbstreit made a interesting X or tweet, I guess, depending on what age bracket you're in. Kurt was talking about that the national championship should be played in the Rose Bowl every year. Curious to get your guys' thoughts on if you agree or disagree with what Herbstreit said.
Yeah, I got that notification on the Bleacher Report. It was headlined by bold move, bold statement, or something like that. And I sent a message to the group I'm in, part of the podcast I'm in right away. I said, "Shit, we've been saying it since the college football playoff came out. It's the best venue in college football, and that should be the national championship every year. Period."
I totally agree. I think it should be, with one caveat. It has to be played on New Year's Day, and it has to be played at 5 because as that
grass, keep grass.
Yes, and and as that sun starts to set over those mountains, I mean that is probably the best view you could ever have. I know Stephen A. Smith doesn't like it. He would have loved to take a helicopter there because he says that 100,000 people showed up and. It was murder getting there. You know what I got to tell him? Show up earlier. You know, if you show up 5 minutes before the Indy 500 starts, you're not going to get into the stands that quickly. Show up early, get there early, and you won't have to deal with that. Or
I'm sure
if you're rich enough, take a helicopter. I'm sure you could find a helipad somewhere near.
Yeah, I'm not sure murder and Los Angeles are two words that should be linked together, but you know, that's, I guess, another conversation.
But you know, it's a fantastic venue. I didn't realize how small it was because I guess I've just never really. But I mean, it's an intimate venue, and if you start sending them to these big stadiums, even Lucas Oil, it takes away the ambiance. You know, you're in a big professional stadium. I think that the national championship should be played at the Rose Bowl every year on New Year's Day at 5:00. That way, everyone's almost over their New Year's Eve hangover, and they can sit down and watch the game and watch in amazement as two great teams play. Unless it's SEC teams, and then it's a great team and an overrated team.
You know, and I think with all the AI stuff that we got nowadays, Keith Jackson somehow still managed to do the intro.
Oh, yeah. Did you know, Corbin, that Kurt Herbstreit has now broadcast? He has now announced more Rose Bowl games than Keith Jackson.
I did not know that, and I think he broke a little bit of heart.
Yeah, Kurt Herbstreit went into the Rose Bowl Hall of Fame this past weekend.
That's good, though. I tell you what, there's a lot of people that I'm close to that just kind of trash him because he's not Ohio State homer, you know. And I kind of like the guy. I like the level-headedness. Now, I want to get me started on a homer. I mean, there's a part on College Game Day, but that's neither here nor there. And I'm talking about the drunk punter from West Virginia.
Well, you know what? I would love to know what the ratio of how many times Kurt has chosen Ohio State to win the game and how many times Desmond Howard has chosen Michigan. I know Desmond Howard chooses them every time, but has Kurt Herbstreit ever picked against Ohio State, to your knowledge? I don't know.
I'll tell you what, I bet there were games where he didn't pick his call in the game. So that gives Desmond one up.
Yeah, that does give him, yeah. Corbin, what's your opinion on the drunk kicker from West Virginia being on game day? You like him?
I think he has a flair. I mean, I don't dislike him. I think he's a little over the top at times. I also think that show is, I say this very respectfully, it's dying with Le Corso. I love the trio, the original three and what they bring, and I honest with you, I don't really know what Desmond brings, but McAfee brings a different side, and I actually prefer when he's with the crowds. He's on the set. I think he kind of tries to get a little bit too. I guess I don't have the right word, but when he's in the crowd, he's kind of in his element, and I mean, it doesn't feel like he's trying too hard when he's there.
Yeah, I like when McAfee's up on the stage. I think he brings a more.
Speaking of,
go ahead, Derik.
Go ahead.
I think McAfee.
Speaking of the drunk kicker from West Virginia, that go ahead.
No, go.
I was just going to say, speaking of the, this drunk kicker from West Virginia that may or may not have jumped in the White River here in Indianapolis, it seems like to me he brings out a lot of personality in the other people that are on College Game Day, maybe except for maybe Reese Davis. Reese Davis is, it seems like he's all professional all the time. And I think just this past weekend shows that in the comment that the drunken kicker from West Virginia made. But I think he just brings out personality in everyone else involved. Josh, if you unmute, it makes things easier.
My bad. I definitely think that he brings out personality in the group. I think that, and I know that Herbstreit has come out on record and said if they take McAfee off, he may not want to come back. I don't know if that's just him sticking up for his fellow broadcaster, but I think he does. I think he does a good job. David Pollock was great, but I just. Sometimes I want to know what the announcers are thinking, what the anchors are thinking, and what they're saying. And Pat doesn't have a filter. I mean, he has a filter as far as he doesn't curse on the air a lot, but he also realizes that with the crowds getting younger and younger, he's got to relate to them. Where the old curmudgeons of, we just want to hear the stats and, we just want to know what's going on. That's not you have to adapt to the times and you have to bring new fans in. If you don't bring new fans onto the show, you're going to, your show's going to die. You're going to start losing more and more fans to go watch Fox Big Noon Kickoff than you are College Game Day. And I think College Game Day is the epitome and is the best pregame show you can watch. Although I will say that Big Noon Kickoff is getting up there with their coverage. I do like it, but I like it. I mean, it's also fun when like Corbin said, when he's out in his element, when he's with the younger people. This year, one of my favorite segments was Win Pat's Money. Only one person won, and they only won half of it because they missed the first field goal, and Pat gave him a chance to make a second one. So I think he brings an element of fun, and I hope he stays on. I still don't understand how the man has time to be with his family with everything that he's doing. He's here, he's there, he's everywhere. So I hope he stays on, and I'll keep watching if he does.
You brought up the answer to the question that I was going to ask. I was going to ask you guys which one you heard. I'm still in the game day camp because I like the atmosphere and everything that's going on there. I like what Fox provides as far as insight and things like that. I mean, I think the panel that they have, again, I like the guy on game day, but I like the panel that Fox has and, all the guys that are on there. But I just love the atmosphere of, regardless of where you go, the crowds get there, and it's just because that's what I grew up with. I mean, every Saturday morning you turn it on, and it was Bubba Sparks, way back in the day, getting things going. So I'm a game day guy as well. Derik, do you have a preference?
I've watched both of them, and if I had to choose one, it just seems like it's more natural to me. And Corbin, you can contest to this too. When we both lived at home, well, when I lived at home anyway, that Saturday mornings, if we weren't in some type of activity, it was, as soon as 9 a.m. hit, we were flipping it over to ESPN College Game Day. I can remember having David Pollock was on there, Curb Street, the Coach Corso, Reese Davis, and then they've made additions over the years. So if I had to pick one over the other, it just seems like I'm a traditionalist, and I prefer, if I had to watch one over the other, I would pick College Game Day. As much as you think it's trending downward, I would pick College Game Day over Big Noon Kickoff on Fox.
That's surprising because your hero Urban Meyer. I would figured both of you guys would want to be over there with.
Whoa! Don't you be putting words in my mouth. Oh no! I am as anti Urban Meyer as an Ohio State fan can get. He is one of those guys that I'm glad when he's on my team because he wins, but he can. Well, I don't know if this is a family friendly show or not, so I'll keep my thoughts to myself as far as when he's not around. But the best thing that Urban Meyer did outside of winning a national championship, and again it goes back to my defense, was we brought LJ on to coach the defensive line. Outside of that, Urban Meyer get wrecked for all I care.
Okay, I mean
now if you want to talk coaches, you bring up the senator. Jim Tressel. I think Jim Tressel is on the Mount Rushmore of football coaches.
Sweater vest, yes. Along with John Cooper. John Cooper up there too.
I'll tell you what, I liked her until the calendar in November, about like Ryan Day. Except
come on,
anti-Ryan Day. I've been anti-Ryan Day from day one.
Yeah,
from day one.
How about Kyle McCord? How was his season? You think?
I'll tell you what, I'm of the subject.
What's that, Corbin? You're breaking up on us.
I was told, Corbin, I was told earlier today. Yeah, Corbin, Josh kind of beat me to it, but a little birdie told me today, and I didn't know this, that at the beginning of the year, somebody on this panel said that Kyle McCord would be a finalist for the Heisman. Is that true?
No, I don't think I said that. I think the hot take that I had was that McCord would throw for 5,000 yards.
I could have sworn on the golf course you said that he was going to be a Heisman finalist with him and Marvin.
Now, I might have said that a little tongue in cheek, but I thought Marv could have been. Obviously, he was. I don't know if he necessarily should have actually been honored or taken, but that's another story. but McCord would be okay. And you asked, I thought McCord was okay. I'm of the minority of Ohio State fans who thought that McCord was okay. I thought the offense I thought he was handicapped offensively. I thought that some of our best drives of the season were drives where Day let him, throw the ball farther than 10 yards. I think he ended up with, nearly 3,500 passing yards. If Day, turns him loose a little bit, I think he's got the capability of, reaching that 5,000 mark. But again, I like to have a couple of takes here and there, and you guys are calling me on the one, and it was not a Heisman. No chance. I've said that, but I will admit that I said he'd throw for 5,000 yards.
Yeah, okay. I may have been mistaken, but I could have sworn that. But I don't think, as a Michigan fan, and this is not because we beat you guys, I think McCord got a raw deal. I think Ohio State fans they're so rabid that they ran the guy out of town on a rail. He had 2 bad throws during the Michigan game. And in my opinion, one of them, I don't think Marv gave up on it on that interception by Will Johnson early in the first half. I think that Marv could have had a chance to get in there, but he didn't. And then the last one where Rod Moore interception, he was off balance. He was getting hit as he threw. I think that Kyle McCord got a raw deal. I think if he would have been able to come back and play and compete with Kleinholtz or Brown next year, I think he would have beat them out. And I don't think Aaron Nolan would be able to come in. I just think Ohio State fans were too quick to say that he was not a good quarterback, and I think he was. I think he was serviceable, and I think, like you said, Ryan Day's and Ryan Hartline's play calling hindered him a little bit, I do think.
Look, you're probably going to get a little bit different perspective from me than you will Derik. But all of my hips are in on Aaron Nolan. Okay, so regardless of if McCord stayed and beat him out next year, I think Nolan still needs a year of development. I don't think he's going to come in and start right away. But you're not going to hear me trash McCord. Do I want him to play better in the moment? Sure. I think anybody who's anybody wants their players to play in the moment in the game. But I'm of the minority of Ohio State fans. I cannot stand 95% of Ohio State fans because they talk out of both sides of their mouth and they want it, 100% right, winning all the time. And that realistically, that's not going to happen. There's going to be a winner and a loser. And McCord, go back to that interception that he threw early in the game against Michigan. I thought he should have handed the football off inside 2020. Part of me thinks that maybe Marv thought that too, based on the look they got. Again, I can't make an excuse for anybody. It was a good play by Will Johnson. I thought Marv took play off after the interception where, again, and then the interception at the end, so be it. How many times do you see guys throw interceptions at the end of the game? And it's what it is. You got to make a play. But too many Ohio State fans, are pointing the finger at the wrong person. And I think, and again, it's been 5 years, and I'm telling you, from day one, I was anti-Ryan Day. Okay, and it's not that I didn't like him. I think an outstanding offensive coordinator, a great play caller. But this is Ohio State. You do not hire a first-year head coach at one of the bluest of blood programs in college football. You just don't do it. Now, if you do a national search, okay, and we're talking, think about this time when Ryan got hired. Who was the hot names? All right. Well, one, Kyle Whittingham. Okay. 2, who was the hot name coming out of Florida Atlantic? If you want to think about it, Lane Kiffin. Now again, will I take Lane Kiffin now? Sure, 100%. But what has Lane Kiffin done? Lane Kiffin's been a head coach and he's been fired. Okay, so we're not getting a first-year head coach who's also a player. Okay, so if we do this national search and we review, this guy, that guy, this guy, and we come back and think, okay, Ryan Day's the guy, fine, I'll give you a break. But the fact that we let Urban Meyer handpick our next coach, that maybe it's because I'm anti-Urban Meyer, but that's where it started. I think now they're starting to understand that 56-7 record or whatever Ryan Day's record is, it's not all that great. Why? How many of those wins are against teams that he's just flat out better than? 45? 45? I mean, when we play teams that are of equal talent or more talent, what happens? We lose. Okay? So, Ryan Day he's got some serious soul searching to do, and I think it starts, again, and I've said this for 2 or 3 years now, it starts with him looking in the mirror and saying, hey, how do I want to handle myself?
There's a lot, Josh and Corbin, to unpack there. I think first and foremost, I want to make sure people realize, this isn't a podcast about Ohio State. I want that made first and foremost. But first, I'll address Kyle McCord. I think Corbin can probably agree with this. Ohio State fans have been, what's the word I'm looking for here?
Spoiled.
Have been spoiled. There you go. Absolutely. That's spot on. They have been spoiled with the likes of, rest in peace, Dwayne Haskins. Then you went from Dwayne Haskins, you went in the transfer portal, and you had Justin Fields. Then after Justin Fields, you had C.J. Stroud. And now you have Kyle McCord. And I think, like I said, Ohio State fans have been spoiled because those last 3 quarterbacks could throw a deep ball on a dime. Kyle McCord's skill set, I mean, he could throw the ball, yes, but I don't think he could throw the ball downfield and hit the big play as well as those other 3. So obviously Ohio State fans were spoiled, and the first year with McCord, they didn't get that. Now, I think some of that too, obviously, falls on McCord being a first-year starter, being inexperienced. I get that. But at the end of the day, I think Corbin's absolutely right. This is Ohio State. And when you play quarterback at Ohio State, I think there's a certain expectation, right, wrong, or indifferent. And I don't think Kyle McCord can, and he may at Syracuse, but I don't think he can live up to that expectation. You look at JJ McCarthy, for example. Now, do I like the fact that JJ McCarthy signed with Michigan? No. But what does JJ McCarthy have? He's got the fire and the passion to play quarterback and college football. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I've never seen all year Kyle McCord have that same fire and passion as JJ McCarthy does, and they were in the same recruiting class. And actually, Ohio State didn't offer JJ McCarthy. They took Kyle McCord over him. If Kyle McCord had that same fire and same passion this past year, we may not be talking about this. But unfortunately, the chips fell where they may. And then to talk about Ryan Day, I think Corbin's absolutely spot on there too. To me, and I know Corbin's got more experience in the coaching realm than I do, but a head coach is supposed to be the CEO. I think Ryan Day has so much on his plate right now. It's taking things away, taking his time away from special teams, which I think Ohio State was atrocious on special teams. He fixed the defensive side because you think about it, just a couple of years ago, Ohio State defensively was a joke. And he brings in Jim Knowles, and you see what Jim Knowles has done the last 2 years. And to Corbin's point, I think Ryan Day needs to find his Jim Knowles on the offensive side of the ball. And there is one name that I've seen that I would absolutely love. Corbin's probably going to absolutely hate. But I would love for Ryan Day to, like Corbin said, look himself in the mirror, tell him, I can't call plays anymore. I have to be the head coach. I have to be the CEO, and give the play calling to one. And I think Corbin may like this now that I think about the ties, Cliff Kingsbury.
Yeah, I don't. I mean, I could go on and on. I don't think to talk about Ohio State. I mean, obviously, Cliff Kingsbury played for Mike Leach, and I'm a huge Mike Leach guy. You know, a guy that I don't know was looking to move a little bit farther east of the Mississippi. You know, about the time Ryan Day got hired. But again, neither here nor there. Again, I could go on and on about Ohio State. Just to kind of slide off of football for just 1 second. Is Halliburton the best point guard in the NBA?
Possibly. He had 18 assists tonight.
I was just looking at the box score.
10 points, 18 assists. I'm not sure how many rebounds, but he is possibly. He's proved Wally Zerbiak wrong. He is not a pretend all-star. He is going to be a perennial all-star in my opinion, and I'm glad he's on the Pacers.
Well, I know this is a foot show. I had to ask. I mean, but we can get off of Ohio State, but if you guys have any other questions for me, I'll gladly give you an opinion.
I know there's one that I know Josh is passionate about, and it's the transfer portal. He has been a strong advocate of the transfer portal not opening until after all bowl games are played, national title game, etc. Prime example, what happened to Florida State? Florida State was a shell of the team that they were in the regular season, going undefeated and then just getting absolutely shellacked by Georgia. But I'll let Josh talk about his passion for the transfer portal not opening till after bowl games, and then Corbin, I'd love to hear your input as well.
Yeah, Corbin, my disdain for the transfer portal is strong. I can't stand the fact that the transfer portal starts right after the regular season ends, because now you've taken the once proud bowl season and made it into a debacle. Not only do you have first rounders opting out of their bowl games unless they are one of the 4 teams that's in the college playoffs. Like, thank goodness we expand to 12 next year. But you also have, I don't know, Florida State lost most of their first team to the transfer portal. Kyle Rodemaker left. You had Ohio State was demolished by all their transfers. It makes no sense for the transfer portal to open. I can understand the early signing period for high school. That doesn't affect the teams that are currently playing, but the transfer portal is just not. It's not a healthy thing, and especially now that you have it seems like unlimited transfers. You'll have DJ Uiagalelei, who started out at Clemson. He went to Oregon State, and now he's going to be the quarterback for FSU next year. It's becoming a free agency, because as we know, these players are jumping into the portal, and when teams are contacting them, they're like, "Show me the Benjamins. What am I going to get? What can your collective or your boosters offer me that this team over here can't do?" And me and Derik have both agreed that Ohio State and Michigan are probably two of the schools that are large that don't offer a lot of money. I cannot remember. There was a player that just moved, and I cannot remember who it was, but he's rumored to get $600,000 next year. He's getting a house and a car. That's insane. The fact that a college player is getting $600,000, a house, and a car to come play for them. The transfer portal is going to, if it's not gotten under control, it is going to be one of the downfalls of college football, along with NIL, which that's a different subject. That what the NIL that we have now was not what the NIL was originally intended for. It was intended that they could make money off their name, images, likeness, not hey, come here and I'll pay you $1 million. it was supposed to be, hey, you can go to autograph signings and you can make money off your name. Hey, you can do, your local Honda dealer, go do a commercial for them. Not, hey, we got a collective when or we got a booster over here that'll give you $20,000 a month if you come play for us. It just was never meant for that. That's paying for players. The players should only be able to make money, in my opinion. I know I'm not one of those players. They should only be able to make money on those certain things, commercials, being spokespersons for companies, or autograph or memorabilia signings. What's your idea? What's your thoughts, Corbin?
Yeah, I thought Lane Kiffin said it best, and it, kind of set it up on what you said. What season? I mean, and you can think through any sport. What season allows free agency to open before the season's over? None. Not a one. Not a one. And you can call it the transfer portal or this or that, but it's free agency. That's all it is. That's all it was ever going to be. Okay, because they rushed it out. They had no regulations. They knew what they wanted to do, and like you finished up with, it had a great premise behind it. Protect some of these guys, because again, these universities are making uber amounts of money. Right? I mean, I don't blame guys for wanting to get their cut. I mean, that's human nature. But there had to be some way to manage it, and they haven't. The NCAA has flat out failed. And I'm on record as saying that within the next at least 10 years, I think more like 5 years, there will be a different governing body, college football as we know it. And I don't know if that means we're going to take, just the Power Fives and they break away, or if there's a whole different. I don't know what it looks like, but I think that I think the NCAA loses its grasp of college football and somebody else is in control.
Yes, I've also said the NCAA is going to go away.
I just think it's incredibly reckless where things are at right now. Not only do I think the NCAA goes away, at least from college football, or maybe at least maybe the Big Two with college basketball too. But if you want to keep the transfer portal the way that it is, I think a way that you can slow these people down in regards to transferring year in or out is you are not allowed to transfer to a team or to a school that is in the same division that you are currently playing in. So, for example, if you're an FBS guy and you want to transfer, by all means, nobody's going to stop you. Allegedly trying to better yourself or chips or any of that, bullshit. Okay. If you're trying to leave, go to an FCS school for a year, go to a JUCO, go play somewhere that's not division or that's FBS, and then come back on year 3. Okay. And then you get these FBS guys who, maybe they balled out or maybe they showed out, or obviously these JUCO guys, things like that. Boom. Now you feel free to go, elevate yourself if there's a school that wants you. Okay. You talk about guys that would be slowing down. I mean, right there, hey, you sit here and take what we're going to give you, or you can go ahead and demote yourself because you can't stick out.
Definitely good points, I think. And then, something else I think to be considered. And I showed Josh this. We found somebody on X or Twitter this week was putting out how to fix college football when it comes to the transfer portal. Allow each player one transfer, one free transfer, get out of that school card, let's say. And then if you decide you want to transfer again, well, we go back to the NCAA rule where you have to sit out a year. So you get one free transfer, you get one go pass go, collect $200. But the next time you want to transfer, you have to lose a year. I would love to see that implemented as well as other things.
Yeah, they kind of tried that, but then you had guys saying, mental health reasons or, hardships and all that. I'm not downplaying any, obviously mental health is a big issue now. I'm not downplaying any of that. I'm not saying that it didn't happen, but I think a lot of those mental health, and I say that with air quotes, are about as real as some of these injuries on defense when the offense is going at, uber fast speed, and all of a sudden they fall down to the crack if they're in the next play. Okay, you want to put a stop to that? You're off the field the rest of the series. You can't come back in the rest of the series. You get hurt. All right, and it's in the name of protecting players, because that's all we're in the name of the game now anyway, right? Protecting players, and not just players, but protecting their pockets, everybody else's pockets along the way.
Definitely. And one of the things on the NIL aspect of the transfer portal, and some players at a high school, and I think I've heard of a couple of stories of players that have transferred. Someone has got to regulate this NIL, because there are players that are coming out and saying, "Look, I was promised such and such. I was promised X amount of dollars, and I haven't received a dime for coming to this store." And I don't know if the NCAA can step in on that or what it is, but some players are starting to get bamboozled, and they're being sold a bill of goods that are never going to come true. I know I've heard one Texas A&M player from that vaunted class a couple of years ago that came in. They were all instant millionaires when they first got on campus. That was said that the money never showed up. So. I do agree. I do like the idea of the one free transfer. You get one free transfer, and then after that you have to sit out. I wouldn't be in favor of the having to go down a division thing, because I think there are players that do want to move. Justin Fields, he got a hardship because he claimed that Georgia, someone called him the N-word, and that was not good for his mental health. And I'm not saying if that's true or not, but if it was, then albeit. So I don't think they should be able to. They should have to go down to division. But I do think the one free transfer rule is a good idea.
And the bigger concern that I don't want to have, but I think happened and is going to happen more as the dollar amounts continue to get higher and higher, is, the case of, Carson Hinsman, the Ohio State center. And I don't mean to bring it back to Ohio State. It's just the freshest thing at this point. I can't help but think that he gets benched because of for lack of a better word, a booster or an NIL, pocketbook might have had the ear of one day and said, "Hey, he's speaking out with what we're doing. If you were going to let that go, then, we're going to quit funding." And again, I don't know, if that did or didn't happen that way, but I mean, tell me it wouldn't be hard to believe.
The more I hear about that, and the more I dig into that, Corbin, for some reason it just sits with me. It would not surprise me to see that happening as the lights go out, but I haven't set on timers. But yeah, that would not surprise me one bit to know or to see that that was why Hensman sat out the Cotton Bowl for sure. Great point. Last thing, and I have, unless Josh, you got something else. I know all of us are video game enthusiasts. How excited is everyone here on the panel to hear and see the potential of a EA Sports college football game coming out potentially this summer?
I mean, if it costs me watching terrible bowl games for the next 40 years, I'm not sure how I feel about it, because usually by December I'm kind of gamed out. But at least I can survive from early July to, maybe late October.
Me, I'm excited. I cannot wait. I have the last issue that came out over, what was it, 10 years ago, with a dynamic quarterback on the front. But I can't wait. The only thing that's going to be a bummer is I don't know if they're gonna have physical copies. I always loved going at midnight to my local GameStop, picking up the copy that I had already pre-ordered, and going home and playing for a couple hours. Checking out some of the bugs, see what they are. But by far, NCAA football is probably, well, seeing it's not going to be NCAA football, but college football is my favorite video game of all time to play, with Mario coming in second. But college football, I love it better than Madden, because it seems like Madden's just they roll the same game out there with just better graphics. Every year it seemed like the graphics for NCAA got better, but they also came up with different aspects of the game. You have the different offenses you could run. Back in the day, you had Navy with their ground and pound. Army was always running the wing T. Just different offenses you could go out there and play. You could start from a high school senior in the playoffs and go from that. You're in your playoffs in high school and you win your state championship. Then you get your teams that you announce. You get to go out and recruit your players. You have an allotment of points you can put towards different players. Trying to find those gems. You couldn't always get, even if you were Ohio State or Michigan or one of the big programs, you couldn't always get the 5 stars. You had to go find a 3-star running back that was gonna fit your system. So I, for one, am excited if they do make an announcement on Monday, that, as it's been speculated, that they're going to announce when the game is going to be released. I'll be over the moon, because I just can't wait. I've got a PS5, and that was one of the main reasons I bought the PS5 was because we knew the college football game was coming out, and I wanted to have it on the next gen and be able to play it. So I am excited, and I cannot wait.
Last thing that I have, Josh, unless you have anything else, Corbin, first and foremost, huge thank you for taking some time out of your busy schedule here on this late Friday night to join us. I know you do some podcast work as well. Do you want to talk about the show that you frequent?
I don't know if I would consider it frequenting. So between football and baseball seasons, I make some appearances on a podcast called Across the Field. You can find it on Apple, Spotify, and wherever else the Spotify podcast puts it out. Across the Field podcast. Generally, it's kept to local sports in Northwest Ohio, but we're also big Buckeye fans, so a lot of Buckeye talk. But we also give opinions on other things like the NFL and the NBA. One of our episodes right before Christmas, we actually it was fun. I'm not much of an NBA guy, but we were able to talk about who we put our top 5. It was right after the Shaq comment about Curry being one of the GOATs and being in that combination. So that led us to kind of rank our top players of all time. And then we got to talk about it, and then our top 5 shooters. So that was fun. So it doesn't always stay on the track. Sometimes we get some high conversation. We go off the rails a little bit, but for the most part, we've been going on for just over a year now. And we try to get 2 podcasts out a week. With our schedules, it's difficult at times, but there's kind of a rotating cast of guys. So again, Across the Field podcast. I mean, I'm sure I could probably get a plug in with our guy if we ever needed a third guy, or we needed a Michigan opinion or anything like that. Although it wouldn't be valued. So yeah, I appreciate it. I mean, and I appreciate you guys, inviting on it. If I can find some, I'll gladly come back.
Definitely, we do appreciate your input, Corbin.
Yeah, absolutely. Josh, if you have anything else to add, we'll go to it. If not, we're going to let Mike Leach, the great, late great Mike Leach, take us out talking about the playoff system. But before that, Josh, anything else you want to add?
Go Blue. Hopefully, on our next podcast, we can talk about Michigan's national championship. As much as that will make you mad, but and dishearten you, but hopefully, my Michigan Wolverines come out on top. So go Blue, and can't wait till Monday.
Can they conquer the state of Washington? It was Washington State in '97, and it's going to be Washington in 2023. Well, 2024.
Definitely going to be worth the watch Monday night. But for that wraps up another episode of the Football Fanatics podcast. Again, huge thank you to Corbin Vance for joining us. Hopefully, we may be able to get him back in the future. But as we close things out, again, let's hear from the late, great Pirate himself, Mike Leach, on playoff committees.
I think you could solve nearly all these questions if they had an expanded playoff system. I think 64 teams, but I think the minimum's 16. If you had 16 teams, then I think we could settle a whole lot of these issues. It doesn't matter what the East Coast or Los Angeles or anybody in between thinks. All of a sudden there's 16 teams. Oh, geez, number 16 beat number 4. Well, screw number 4. Number 4 is out, you see, because number 16 got them. I mean, that'd pretty well solve all of it, wouldn't it? And then 32, you could easily do 32. And then the other thing that I think college foolishly does is they just give the NFL December. I mean, there's no sense in that. I mean, you could be having playoff games there in December, and everybody could potentially live happily ever after. And then the other thing is you could even sort the schedule in such a way that you have an off week 1 week, half of America has an off week 1 week, the other half has an off week the next week, and you never have to play somebody after the off week. The most stunning thing, and I give this lecture probably 3 times every year, but then college football says they scratch their head and they give a really befuddled, mixed up look, and they get a really screwy expression on their face. Like, well, how can that possibly be? I mean, how can we do that? I mean, how is it possible that you could actually have a playoff format in college football? Well, gee, I don't know. Let's start with, we can go down to the local city park, and I'll bet you somebody that handles youth football could tell you how to do something like that. Well, that's too low of a scale. Let's move it up a little bit. Okay, how about high school from a major state? Let's say Texas, Florida, or California. Let's see how they do it. Okay, let's see. These guys, they win a certain number of games. They have a qualification. Okay, now, boom, they're in the playoffs. But they don't have just 2 or 4 teams or something. Hell no, because they want everybody to have fun and enjoy this playoff system. Okay, so then they play each other, and everybody's on the edge of their seat going to wait and see if this team's going to beat that team or going to beat the other team. And so then, in the end, there's occasionally a debate. If only this team hadn't lost to that team in this round, then this team could have won the whole thing, and that's perhaps true. But the thing that is indisputable is that at the end of the gauntlet, this team came out on number 1, and there's no debate whatsoever who's state champion. And then you can go to Division 3. Let's see, how do they do it? Oh, they do it the exact same way. Okay, now the suspense is really starting to get thick because, Division 2 might do it differently. No, in fact, they don't. They do it exactly, boys and girls, like Division 3 does. And then now they've changed the initials because in this era of political correctness, they love to change initials and make it proper to say things one way instead of another. And I forget what the initials is. But then they go to 1AA. Okay, at 1AA. How do they do it in 1AA? 1AA. I mean, because that's getting closer to us, and we're really sophisticated because we're major 1A. How did they do it in 1AA? You know what? They have a playoff format, and they play it, and they figure it out. And then, okay. Well, they're all below us. Okay, what about above us? The NFL. And everybody, you know, that just makes you feel good to roll those initials off your. It's like Huckleberry Finn said. Some days I just have to swear to get a good taste in my mouth. Okay, so then NFL. Now that makes my mouth feel good because that's the best and they're the top. Let's see here. How did they figure out their champion? Well, they in fact organize a playoff system. And how many teams are in there? A hell of a lot more than 4. And then they sort it all out, and then they have one battle after the next. And at the end, guess what? They sort out a champion, and it's called the Super Bowl. And there's not interest diminished because people are captivated by the playoffs. And the biggest sporting event every year in the history of the world is the Super Bowl. Okay, any questions?